So thank you again for joining this webinar. We have a great webinar today. We also have a great presenter. Happens to be the most attractive person at eLearning Brothers. Yes, it's me. I will be presenting today. We are going to be talking about the 5 must-know features for Articulate Storyline 2. And I recently came on ELB. I've been here about a year. And this is by far my favorite tool to use. It's so simple, but it has the power behind it to do whatever you want to do. Okay, so today, as we see this, it's fairly simple, the things we're going to be covering today, but these things that we're going to be talking about today have such huge implications. We're able to do a lot of things with these features. And to show you the kinds of things that we can do, to begin with, the first thing we're going to be talking about is being able to hide the previous and next player buttons that are on the built-in player. For me, I love to have custom buttons, and I don't like using the buttons that the built-in player gives me, so I'll show you how to hide those. That's a fairly simple feature. Next, we'll be talking about object animation, so fade in, fades out. And then the big two that we're going to be talking about are motion paths and move triggers. And this gives a lot of depth to your games, and recently everybody's talking about gamification and giving more to your users. And the last thing we are going to be talking about is sliders. To show you the kind of things that we're able to do with this, we're going to do a fairly simple run through live today, but there was a game that I was able to build with eLearning Brothers fast, and it used a lot of these features. And as we can see here, we have a little motion path here at the beginning that's repeating. That's something we'll be covering today. But as we go into the game, we also see the little median line going through the middle that repeats as a motion path. And here we got the motion path, the car dodging these, and all that motion path. So we have a lot of versatility and ability to use these things, these features, in Storyline 2. We're going to run through this very simply, just because we don't have a lot of time to go through and teach you how to build a game, maybe on another webinar. Okay, well first I'm going to hide this. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to show you guys how to hide the next and previous buttons on the menu. So first we go up to the trigger pane, we click New Trigger, and we go to Change State of the next and previous button we see here. So we go to Previous Button, we change to Hidden when the timeline of this slide starts. We do the same thing for the next button, change to Hidden when the timeline starts. And if we preview that, we'll see that the buttons that are normally there down in the corner are gone. And that allows us to put our own custom buttons right here to change slides, to change layers. So, and that's for all of you that like to have the custom buttons, you don't want to double up on the buttons down in the player and your custom buttons on screen. So we got that one done, check one. Okay, now we're going to be talking about object animations. So for that we need an object. Let's get a simple square in here. And to get to the animations, my mouse is bugging out a little bit, sorry. We click on the animations tab up on the ribbon up here. And we can see we have entrance animations, exit animations, and then a motion paths we'll be talking about later. And so to start off with, let's pick a nice cool one. Let's do a grow and spin to enter in. And if we click right here, we can change from what direction it enters, and different entrances and animations have different effect options. So let's go back to grow and spin. Let's do it from the top. And then if we preview, we'll see that happen right from the beginning. You see the grow and spin come in. And down the timeline, if we want to have an exit animation, we can't have the animation go direct all the way to the end of the timeline, or we won't see the animation. So let's say about 4 seconds, and let's give an exit animation of zoom. And we'll see how that looks. So enters 4 seconds later, and then it zooms out. And again, this tool and this feature is so crucial to creating a game that is engaging for your users and for your employees if you're corporate, because it not only is it a click through, but you're seeing animations happen. You're seeing it's more engaging for your user. Especially for me, I love playing video games and things like that, and trying to imagine a video game without any emotions or depth to it is very hard. I'm just glad I live in the 21st century where I have a 3D game instead of a Pac-Man 2D game to play for my whole life. Okay, next one. So we got that. Let's get the outline back up here. We've got object animations. Check. Okay, now we get to the big stuff, the motion paths and move triggers. So I'm going to take this in about 3 tiers. I'm going to show you how to just simply do a motion path, and then a motion path when you click something, and I'm going to show you how to repeat a motion path, which is one of the coolest things I've actually learned how to do. So that motion path, we click on our, let's say, just show until end, and make an animation, and let's add a motion path. So you can see here we have our basic turn, arcs, and lines motion path, which are very simple. And then we have shapes it can make, and then custom. Let's do a custom scribble. So for right now, you can see it turned into a little pencil that lets me know that I can draw a motion path. Let's draw a little scribble here of the motion path happening. You can see here the start point is this green little triangle down in the center of the box, and then the end is a red triangle. And we can skew that and shrink that to however big we want. I want it to be about the size that I drew it, so I'll keep it like that. In the path options, there are a lot of things we can change here. The biggest thing for me in learning how to use motion paths is the easing. Easing in and out means it starts slower and then it gets faster towards the middle and then it gets slower towards the end. In, it just is a slow beginning, and then it goes the same speed until the end, and then out, it starts off fast and then ends slow. For me, I want to keep in and out, so I'll just click that. Let's go back up to path options. And now we can change the speed to be really fast, just fast, medium, and slow. We'll keep it on medium. Another thing we can do is reverse the path direction. So as we see here, we have the green triangle down here. If we want the green triangle to be up at the red triangle without having to skew the whole thing like this and try to, wiggle our way out like that, we just path options and reverse the path direction. And we have now the box will start from the top up here, even if the object is down here. That is one thing to know. If your object is on screen right here, when the motion path starts, it will jump up to right here and come down. That's why I like to line up my motion path with my box on screen, so there's no jumping actions. We can also change the duration. So if we want it to be as long as my slide, we can say 6 seconds. And let's preview that, and we'll see how that looks. So the entrance animation goes around, and then it zooms out. It's fairly simple. One thing that we're going to do now, utilizing the move triggers as we see right here, we're going to combine the motion paths and move triggers to get a really cool effect and ability. So now let's say we want to click on a button. So let's insert a little button right here, makeshift button. So let's change the color of that. Let's give us some fill. So let's say change, okay, where's our motion path? So to say we want to move this box on this motion path when we click this button. What we do is we go to the motion path that was created right here, the trigger. We go into that trigger and we say, so here's our move trigger right here. We move the rectangle 1, which is this big rectangle, as you see the red outline. Here, let's move this. Yeah. So we move rectangle 1 on this scribble motion path not when the timeline starts, but when the user clicks rectangle 2. So now we have custom made a button right here without a preset or anything. It's just now we are able to click on this button and that will move this box on its scribble motion path. Here, let's get rid of this exit animation. Here we go, let's see how it looks. So we got an entrance right here, and it's not going to go on a motion path. It's not going to zoom out or anything. If we click this button, it'll now move on its motion path. And in that car game that I showed you, the escape game, here, let's see if we can go back to it. The same thing happened. So the car doesn't move until these are the triggers that move the car. So I say, oh, let's move it up to the very top. It'll move the car up to the top, and then it moved back down. That's a very simple thing that we just did in this game, this little project right here. We moved our so-called car or box right here when we clicked this box. Another thing that we can do is make this object repeat. So let's get rid of this motion path real quick. And to get rid of a motion path, you just click either the green or the red, and you hit delete, and that'll get rid of your motion path as you see here. Now the move rectangle 1 has no motion path to be moved on. Let's add a different motion path. Let's have it go a line off screen. So grab this, make the motion path come off screen. Let's say motion path 1. But to get this to repeat is a little more tricky than just adding a box. Okay, so this is what happened. When we created a new motion path, you see right here the motion path is on the rectangle, but it's also when the timeline starts. So we can click and when the timeline starts, and that as you see when we presented, the box immediately moved off screen. But to get rid of that, we just click on that and delete, and now it'll move when we click. So to get an object to repeat, we have to add a trigger that says move rectangle 1 on line motion path 1, okay? When the animation completes, so the animation completes on rectangle 1, what animation? The line motion path 1. So as you see here, the line motion path will complete, and then the line motion path 1 will start. And we'll see if this works. So it's not moving until I click this button. When it moves, it'll move. And see, oh, there we go. We got a repeating effect right here. But if we want to get a smooth motion path, all we have to do is go to direction and none on easing. So that means it'll be the same speed throughout the motion path. So you see, go with the same speed. There we go. And to get rid of the effect of it just warping to right here, it's nice to move the box off screen on the other side, and then you can just draw the motion path all the way across. And you won't see any of the repeating happening. You'll just see a constant box come off screen. So let's actually do that. Let's move the start of the motion path to off screen. So we click the button, goes, and then it just comes like this. There we go. Nice, fluid motion path. And the move trigger is so versatile in that effect that we can move this box on a number of occasions. So we can move rectangle 1 when the timeline reaches a certain point, or when a user right-clicks, when the video is done playing, when the state of a variable changes, or the state of an object changes, when we press W, when we press left, when all these things we can do, and even when a slider moves. That's something that we will do later, that I'll show you later on, is how to use that slider. Again, before we go on, does anybody have any questions about repeating motion paths or anything like that? Okay, how did I move the start of the motion path? All you need to do, who asked that? Greg. All you need to do is just click on the box and go up to animations, and you will see that the start of the motion path is this green triangle, and all you need to do is just click on the dot, and now you can move it wherever you want. Same thing with the end, that I can move the finish. Again, you have to know that the box will appear on screen right here until I click this button, and then it'll warp off. So if we want the box to start where the motion path starts, and we go like this, the motion path is then moved with the box, and all we do is that. So now we won't see a box on screen, but when we click the button, we'll see a box just start repeating. How did I make the car look like it was idling? All I did was make a scribble animation. Who asked that question? Sorry, it was Joanna. All I did was make a simple scribble animation or motion path, very small, and then I shrunk it down even smaller and just had it be in the center of the car, and then I made it repeat. So this car would just have the bouncing effect that it had on screen, and it gave it a cool effect to the car. And all those things can be done to buttons, to text, to all these things if you want to give a game a certain depth. And that's when we're talking about motion paths, how much depth and it gives to your users, and how much more attentive they are when they realize that they have an effect on the motion of the objects on screen. So how do I make it repeat if it hits a certain point on the timeline? We can't repeat from, so as you see here, we only can repeat when the animation completes, but we can start the movement of the rectangle, not when we click this, but when the timeline reaches, let's say, 2 seconds. So that's a great question and a great clarification. We can't repeat an object when it hits a certain, well, actually we can. We could do it, but we have to set a condition. So repeat the motion path. You'd have to add a variable. Yeah, you'd have to make a variable, which we won't go into right now. You have to make when timeline reaches 5 seconds, and it'll add 1 to a variable. And when that variable equals 1, then the object will start repeating. It's a little more complicated for us right now, and we don't really have the time to get into that. And we kind of have to get going for the rest of the webinar. But that was a great question. It's just a little more complicated than we can get into right now. Thank you for your questions. We're going to have to move on a little bit right here, so thank you. So now bringing up the outline, we got motion paths done. Move triggers, done. And now we get to the sliders. Sliders is for me, kind of not something that I can use a lot, but it has a lot of usability. So to get to the sliders, we go to Insert right here. Sorry, I went a little fast. To Controls, and you can see we have our sliders, our hotspots, check boxes, and data entry and radio buttons. So I want this slider right here, and this slider it's fully customizable, exactly like the other shapes we have. So we can change the color of the button, the color of, the actual panel that it slides across. Let's go red. We can change the size of this button to be a little bigger or smaller. We can do the same thing with the little path that moves along. It can be a really small path, or we can make it medium size. But what we can do here, let's get rid of this button. We can make this box, we can make this box go on its motion path by using a slider. And we can say, so we click on the slider, and to do that we go to Design on the slider. And the important part is this area right here in the slider properties. Right now it says it's starting at 0 and ending at 10. So as this little dot right here, it's on 0. Now it's at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to 10. See, there's 11 points total, including 0, up here. And we can make things happen on screen based on the position of the slider. For example, we can move this box on its motion path when this slider is equal to 5. So what we can do, I like starting my sliders when it's on 1. So that means I have 1 through 10, and I don't have 11 chances, but I have 10 little notches instead of 11. That's just a personal preference for me. This is what we do. We click on this trigger right here that moves the box, and we say move the rectangle on its line motion path when the slider moves. And I'll bring up another choice right here. If we have multiple sliders, we can select what slider. But on the condition that it is equal, you can also choose less than or greater to numbers. But for this example, we're just going to say when it is equal to 5. We say OK. And be aware this isn't going to repeat. I took off the repeating effect. So let's preview that. See, nothing's happening. The box is off screen right here. And 5 should be right in the middle. So let's move this slider to 5. Yeah, there you go. So it goes. And if we do it again, it repeats. We can also set variables and triggers that we don't have time for to say it can only moves up on that motion path once. Instead of being able to repeat like this, we can set triggers and variables that say only once can it say only once can it be affected. Bill asks, can you make an object zoom in and out with sliders? You can. All you'd have to do is get this state. So the state of this is normal. We would have to add another state. I'm not going to do the full thing right now, but add another state. And now we're editing this new state. We can make this box look bigger or text look bigger within. And based on the slider's position, you can change the state to be bigger. It won't be very fluid, but you can still zoom in and out like that with a slider. I hope that answers your question. Sherry asked, what are some good uses of sliders? A good use of a slider, and what that I've seen a lot, is like moon phases. So if we had a moon right in the center for this box, if we had a moon right here, and we'd have to create multiple different states right here, and this slider would show different states on screen. We can show the phases of the moon on screen. Also, you can show graphs move up and down based on, you can say this could be a timeline slider, so it moves time. We can go forward in time, like this is 1995 and this is 2016. I could see the change on a graph based on that slider. There'd be a lot of state changes that you'd have to be on the graph, but it is a really cool effect that I've seen done really well. Oh, Amy also says good use of sliders are also timelines, processes, and steps. Yeah, of course, the slider, that's what it's built for, that you can move forward and backwards on your timeline. Thank you guys for all your questions and comments. This is really awesome. Usually webinars aren't as engaging that I've been on. So thank you so much for your questions and your comments. So the last thing I'm going to do to wrap up the webinar, but also wrap up all the things that we've learned, let's cross off the sliders, is the ability to use all these things in one game, in one project. And of course, we've seen the car game that was very intricate in its motion paths and its move triggers and its animations. We didn't use sliders in the game, but it's something that you could also use. Oh yeah, just for you guys' information, this webinar will be on the eLearning Brothers website. You'll be able to find that under the blogs tab. So that's just to let you guys know. The thing I did simply for this webinar is put all those things, all those features into one project right here. Meaning we have our slider, we have a box that's going to move, and we also have a next button underneath. So let's get rid of this one right here. Yes, I want to delete that slide. I'm going to preview this, and I'm going to show you all the things that are going to be happening that can make a really cool project. So I'm going to start that over again. You'll see two animations happening. You'll see lines coming in, and then you'll see the slider come up from the bottom. You see that? And what's going to happen when I move this slider to this far right corner, this box is going to move up. And we'll see what's underneath. There we go. We see our next button. So as you see down here, the next and the previous buttons aren't being shown, so I can't go to a different layer or a different slide. So we hit next. We got our congratulations on our green little smiley face. So all those things can be so effectively used together to create awesome projects that are engaging, and that, frankly, when it's engaging, the user is going to learn more instead of just clicking through and saying, okay, yeah, that's true, that's false, that's yes, that's A. You have something that they're actually engaged in because their movements and their ability to control on screen the movement of this box or the movement of a car, like in the car game, brings such a usability and a depth. Again, I keep saying depth, but it's true, to your game and to your project. Any guys questions that I can run through real quick? Yes, I'll be able to put the source files for this blog or this story on the blog, so you'll be able to watch the webinar and also access the story file. So Cheryl, that'll be for you. Good job. And we'll see you next time for the next webinar.